Mr. Keller, how we doing?
Good. How are you, man?
Doing good. I actually saw part of this crazy invasion that's currently happening in southern Michigan lately and in southern Great Lakes. Have you heard about this?
No.
So this bird, this weird bird with this twisted beak tip that normally lives in the north and kind of out in the mountaintops in the west, normally is not here in the southern Great Lakes. And for some unknown reason, it's here, and it's at a very strange time of the year. And as I started looking into it, I realized, holy crap, other people are getting these too. So there's more to the story. So let's get into it.
All right.
So Will, I'm out messing around today, walking around this park, and I start hearing this noise overhead, this kind of kip, 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 kip sound. And at first I'm like thinking, there's baby birds all over the place right now. So you're like, that's probably just a weird call note of like some baby or something like that. But then it suddenly hit me, oh my gosh, that's a red crossbill. This is a bird that like, yeah, man, for real. And this is a bird that I've like seen down or observed in southern Michigan. On the times I've done it, you could put on one hand. It's less than five. Like they're really rare down here. Give you a quick idea what these things look like. Like all crossbills, they've got the two beak tips crossed. The males are red like this. Then the females are greenish, and the juveniles as well. And they use this beak tip to like exploit seeds that are unavailable to all the other seed-eating birds. So they basically feed exclusively on cones, and it depends. Like each type or species will feed on like its own tree type. And so since these tree crops like change a lot, like the trees, like say it's hemlock is your tree that you like the cones of. If hemlocks suddenly are having a really low year and there isn't much seed crop there, then all the crossbills that like to eat those hemlocks have to leave and go somewhere else. So we're like, you know what I'm saying? We're kind of used to this, but it normally happens in the kind of fall, winter time period, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, especially the last few years, I feel like we've had an above average amount of white wing crossbills.
Absolutely. And that, in fact, white wing, those are the two that we have, white wing and red. White wing tends to be the common one that we would get, and red is typically the harder one, at least where we are in the Great Lakes. That may change elsewhere. So anyway, this got me thinking about fires. And as folks listening will know, and I'm going to switch over to a fire map here, this has been a tremendous year in a bad way, I would say, for fires up in Canada, and particularly this region of Quebec up here. Just give you an idea, this is like east of Hudson Bay. Not many people up here, not many resources for firefighting. And this particular burn right here is over 1 million hectares in size. And this smoke enveloped New York City. We had it in lower Michigan, I would say maybe about a month ago, where the visibility was down to like a mile or less. I've never seen anything like it. And people have been asking the question like, well, if that habitat is uninhabitable for this breeding season, and then you back out and look, this is a lot of habitat. And there's a lot of birds trying to nest up there. You wonder where they go when they get pushed out of those areas. And so it just, the fact that these red crossbills are moving in late summer seems kind of unusual. I was actually hearing inklings of this back in June and July from folks who live up in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. And let's switch over to the range map here. So this is the range map for red crossbill. And I want to make it clear, they're actually very rare in all of these areas here. These are pins from those weird vagrant, or from those winters where you have a lot of them down there. They're basically absent from Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, etc.
Right.
This is the normal area that they nest in, and this includes the entire boreal shield. And then as you get into the Rocky Mountains, where there's similar, cooler climes and lots of conifers and whatnot, they're there as well. But check this out. If you go to the current year, and then you look at March through May, this is a perfect representation of what's normal here. So all along this area from like Minneapolis across to like Toronto, they occur to the north of this, but not to the south. And look what happens when I switch the map over to June to August, and this is just for this year. And look what happens. Look at all these orange pins down here.
Wow.
And the ones that I had this morning were over here by east of Grand Rapids, and as part of a pattern that you're seeing developing here. And there's even been other reports that aren't showing here, particularly a lot along the lakeshore. See these pins here? And when you're getting them along the lakeshore, you and I both know that means the birds are moving. You know, they're not randomly setting up shop on the lakeshore. Movement along the lakeshore is where you first notice these movements where there might not be huge numbers of birds, but that they're actually moving. So, you know, we don't actually know that that's connected in any way to the fires, but one thing that would at least say that that's a possibility is that this bird from Iowa from this month, this is actually from last month, and Iowa is not a place that normally has this species. This one was visiting a feeder, and actually several of the reports down here that we've been aware of are also visiting feeders. That suggests to me that they may not have enough to eat on the cones that they're actually looking for. So,
yeah, especially this time of year when in the winter it might make more sense to see them at a feeder or something. But yeah,
you know, finches are just experts in finding a food source that is unpredictable, and so they almost have a nomadic pattern to them, like the birds of Australia, for example, where you never know where the drought's going to be in any given year, and these finches never know where the seed crop's going to be. So instead of having a normal kind of spring north migration and a fall south migration, they literally will move east and west. They'll cross the entire continent, and they can pop up in weird places, which makes for a lot of fun for us birders. You know. Have you seen red crossbills? Like how many times have you seen them?
Yeah, I see them, you know, in the late fall, early spring, winter in the UP, like during migration and when they're doing their nomadic stuff, not when they're breeding very often. I've never seen them in the Southern Peninsula, and certainly nowhere near as far south as Grand Rapids. I mean, that's really unusual for this time of year.
Yeah, absolutely. I've only seen it in my county around Grand Rapids, Michigan, maybe once or twice ever. And I think it was all in the same winter. And I've been birding here, 20 years now. So, you know, another thing that also plays in, and let's go ahead and play a recording here. Kip, kip. So that gives you an idea of what the sound is. You know, it can be 2s, 3s, and 4s, but there'll be this kip, 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 or kip, 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 that kind of a pattern, kind of a repetitive things. And the ones I heard this morning were doing like kip, 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 kip. And like I say, when I first heard it, it didn't occur to me that red crossbills might even be around. But then I thought, oh, that's right, we are having a push, and they're in weird places. So it actually made sense that I had it. But
so what'll be interesting for me is to see how this eruption differs from previous eruptions, and if somehow we could really nail it down and see if the fire is what's causing this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's going to be pretty tough to nail down without having like tracked individual birds, because remember, even if there was no fires, it might be the case that whatever cones that these are trying to eat off of in the north have just had a poor year, and there's not much seed available in general. So it could just be that. You know, it may be relevant this fall to see when they start showing, if and when they start showing up at that time. But I think it's going to be a little bit tough to tease it apart. You know, I also wonder about birds that just are generalists, that are eating insects like warblers and such, that are trying to breed in those fire areas. How far do they go when the fire burns their habitat out and they can't nest there? I don't know if anything's known about this, but stuff like bay-breasted warbler, Cape May warbler, blackpoll warbler, all that kind of stuff.
American redstart. I mean, as of 2 weeks ago, there's been American redstarts down here in Costa Rica, and you know, there's always going to be some early migration because of failed nesting. But it sounds like, according to some locals down here, it's strange to be seeing the migrant neotropics this early in the summer.
Wow, that seems very early. I
Mhm.
know Louisiana water thrush has been known to return to Costa Rica as early as like late June, early July, but that is a particularly early migrant that arrives early in spring, breeds early up here, and then will leave especially early because a lot of the things that are wintering down there, like our warblers, won't even get to Costa Rica until what, October, maybe even November before they all settle in.
Right.
So it's like we always say, there's people think migration only occurs twice a year. The truth is migration never fully stops. If you consider all the species of birds that we have, there isn't a week in the year where nothing is migrating. It doesn't exist. So migration is really year round. Any last thoughts here about these awesome crossbills? And I totally encourage everybody watching to be on the lookout and be listening for this kip 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 type vocalization anytime from here through the rest of the year, because they're around. And if you're in the lower Midwest, I would say, and it may be that birds. And actually, let me add one other element in. Red crossbills have many types, and they're not considered species, but that I want to say there's like 10 to 15 well-defined types of red crossbills that you can tell by the call note, but you have to be an expert to be able to do it. So we typically send the recordings in, and that will tell you where the bird originated from in theory. So the one recordings that has been produced in Michigan so far was found to be type 2 red crossbills, also known as the ponderosa pine red crossbill. And ponderosa pine is found only in the Rocky Mountains and out west. So that suggests at least weekly, because we know that they can move around, but at least suggests that some of these could be coming out of the west, in which case it might be less evidence for it to be fire-based. But again, type 2s are not only found in the Rockies, so it always gets hard to interpret exactly what's going on with this. But I want to encourage anybody watching to watch carefully for these, listen. And if you do see one on your feeder or nearby, just check the wings, because white-winged crossbill, of course, will show a white stripe here and a white stripe here in the wings, and red crossbills are going to lack that, whether it's male or female. So, as always, please like, share, and subscribe, and get out there and find your own red crossbill. And when you do, let us know about it. Until next time, I'm Caleb.
I'm Will.
Peace.
Peace.